Hi, so this lesson is about how to share the awesome work that you've created in your virtual classrooms. And we'll talk about how to best share it with other teachers first, and then we'll also talk about how to share it with students. So, a lot of you have been collecting files that you see shared all over in amazing Facebook groups and other places online, and you've had different ways that you've opened those. You've probably also noticed people have tried to share in ways that did not work. So, we'll try to talk about how to best share files with teachers first. So, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that whatever file you're trying to share, go to the yellow share button, go to change to anyone with the link, and go ahead and set it so that anyone on the internet with this link can view. Because otherwise, you're the only one who can view it no matter how you share the link out. So it's best for you to make it so that anyone with the link can view, just to be safe. So we'll go ahead and always do that first with what used to be the blue button, of course, is now the yellow button. All right, so we've got it so that anyone with the link can view. The next thing we want to look at are some ways that you can hack or change the address of the file that shows it in different formats. So by default, when you look at the address of really any Google file, not just in slides, but docs or sheets, you will find the word edit toward the end of the file. If you highlight from the E of edit to the end of the address and just go ahead and hit your delete or backspace key, we have some options for ways that you can share the file based on a few different words that we can replace that edit piece with. One of those is the word copy. If you type the word copy and hit delete, you'll notice that the address now ends in copy. And when you would copy this whole address and share it out with someone in an email or on a website, what they would see is this screen that gives them one choice, and that's to make a copy. And that works great. If you're sharing in a group, you can certainly do that. It forces them to make a copy by clicking this button. When they click and make the copy, it will open up a file, and it's called copy of whatever the original file name was. That's why some of the files that you're seeing say copy of, copy of, copy of, copy of Bitmoji Classroom Starter Kit, because that's how people have changed it. So in this copy, that was one thing that you could do. The reason I don't like that method is that when you are using the word copy, let's go back to that so you can see it. You can see the title, but you don't know what you're copying. And in terms of digital citizenship, I just don't believe that's great practice when we have better alternatives. So what I prefer instead of copy is to go up and delete that, edit, wherever point you're at, delete that off. And we're going to instead put template slash preview, TEMPLATE/preview, and hit return. This is how most of you got the Bitmoji starter kit to start with. You had an address that was shared, that ended with this. You clicked the use template button and it automatically opened a copy for you that's only yours. You could not edit anything until you've made your copy. But you also see what you're getting here. You can even come down and look at some of the slides in here if you wanted before you went ahead and made the copy by using the template. So that is my favorite way to share. I have found that when people share this way and I try to open it on my phone, it requires me to log into the app. So if you're sharing with something that would be on the phone, sometimes the copy works better. So there's not just one way to do anything in Google, right? So we talked about changing it to copy, and then this version where we're changing it to template/preview. Another option we can do is change that same section of the address to the word present. And when we do that, it brings you into the equivalent of clicking the present mode when you're in slides in general and you go out to present when you're ready to do a presentation. It's the same thing if we would edit that URL from the E of edit to the end, like we've been doing, and change it to preview, or I'm sorry, present. It brings you into present mode. So all the links are clickable. You can go through the file as if you were presenting. So if I go out here and I had this as a clock video for the kids, that link is live and ready to go. One downside is that in present mode, they can go through and look at multiple slides. And depending on what you're trying to do, you may or may not want them to do that based on how you've designed that. So we talked about copy, template slash preview, and present. So those are ways that we can edit the address to get a new link that we can share out. So all of those are totally valid and ways that you can do that. Another option, if I come back into the edit mode of my slides, and I'll go to my original, we don't really need to be working in the copy. I can go under File to Publish to Web. And when I do that, I have two options. I can create a link or I can create embed code. And if you have a Google site, you can embed your slides right within the site. So that's a nice option if you have a Google site. If you want to just share out the link as published to web, it's very similar to using the present in terms of the word. So we would just choose this. You can auto. Most of us in the things that we do as educators don't want any looping or to have it automatically go. So I just don't check the boxes. And you just hit the word publish. It says, are you sure you want to publish? And we say yes. And basically now this is a live website. And just so you know, a little tip, these numbers at the bottom are the frequency that the slides would advance. So if it would advance and I don't want it to, one thing I can do is just change that all to zeros before I send it out. But I would just copy this address and I want to make sure you get the whole thing. So I copy across there to get the whole address, copy it. I could post this in Google Classroom. I could share this out in a website. I could do however you're reaching your kids. I could also make this a link that I tie to an object within my file. So publish to web is probably the most commonly used option if you're sharing things out with students. The same with the embed code. And I'll show you in Google Sites how you would go about doing the embed code. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here for just a minute while I go open up Google Sites, and then I'll show you just quickly how you could embed either of those in Google Sites. So we're just going to build a new site only to show our slides, just to show you how easy it is. So to get to Sites, I just typed sites.google.com/new. You can also use your waffle or your tiles, whatever you prefer to call that. You just get to the sites and we want new sites. So if I go in here and say, I just want a blank site, I can choose any template if I want to, but I'm just going to go with a blank, and we're going to call this a Bitmoji example. So I will just I'll just highlight across here and I will name it Bitmoji sample. That's the name of this page. I would also need to name the site. So I'll call this Lynn-Her demo site. And it's just like Google Docs. When you call it, click it up there and then click down in the title, it automatically copies it down. So if we wanted to put that Bitmoji starter kit on our slides, all we have to do is we're on the insert menu by default. We scroll down to where we see slides. It will automatically bring up the slides that we have to choose from in our room. So I've been doing a lot of work with this lately. So it could be any of these slides that you see here. I'll go ahead and just choose, let's see, we'll go with Mr. Kane. He's been doing some work with this in Crete. So I just choose those slides and I can make my box bigger so that they fill up more of the screen. Drag it out here. And those slides are clickable and ready to go when I publish the site. So you get to control the size. You can do lots of things however you want to make that work, but that's how easy it is to publish your slides on a website. So you could decide, maybe that's easiest for you, is just create a site, insert your slides, and they're ready to go. So if we publish this, it's going to ask for a name, and we'll see if I have already used that name. So here's my Lynn Hurd demo site. If I sent this address out to someone, actually, I think we get the address over here. So view published site. I would pull this address out. This is what it would look like when your kids came here. And when there are things they can click on, they would be right there. And it can be, you could see this one is within the slides, this is a read aloud book. So that's a very easy way for you to get it out as well. So it all depends if you're using Google Classroom, if you're using Seesaw, whatever it is that you're using to share your work. But that's a really nice option and makes it easy for you to get that out. The last one that I want to tell you about is sharing as a PDF. A lot of elementary teachers who use Seesaw have said that using a PDF works well. So to do that, one thing is that when you download as a PDF, it downloads your whole file, not just the one slide that you happen to have selected. So to teach you about revision history, I'm going to go ahead and just delete every slide in my file, except for slide 2. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I'm going to delete clear to the end. Hopefully nobody's in this right now and is freaking out because all the slides are disappeared. But now I've got one slide. If I want to share this out as a PDF, which would still mean that my links work, I could go under File to Download and choose PDF. And when I do that, it will download a PDF and we'll open that to take a look at it as a PDF. So if I go ahead and open this up, you can see I can still click there and that video plays. What does not work well is if you go into the PDF version and have grouped objects with multiple links, it won't pick up all those links when you export. So that's an option that we have to think about too. So I wish there was only one way to do it. It would be easier, wouldn't it, sometimes if there was only one way. But that kind of walks you through some of the options that you have, and you will find information from teachers who prefer one of those to another. Now, what about all those slides that I just deleted that I didn't want? First off, we have the undo button, and I can undo as many times as I need to. The other thing I want to just remind you of, in all of the main Google tools and those core tools, we have version history, and we can go see version history. So if you've been building your file and something went terribly wrong, you can always go back to where it started and see if it's what you want and restore that version so you never lose any copies in the files that you own. So I know some of you were with me when we've had things where you, way back in the day before Google, where we would accidentally save the empty version of a document over the full version and your heart sank and all the blood rushed to your feet. That's all gone now. You don't have to worry about that. It's all just saved. Every version is saved in there. You can also name a version. So sometimes if I know that I'm about to do something that could mess up everything, I'll go in and name it. I'll call this one video example. And if I save that, if I later, rather than look through every version that I have, I can go to version history, and I can say see version history. And I can even do this button that says only show me the named versions. And if I knew that one was working before I got started on something else, I could just immediately restore to that. So a great feature across all of the Google tools. But that's the basics on how you would share your workout that you've done in your virtual classroom.